Hi guys, welcome to this week's video in which I'm telling you my best and worst book of each month this year. I had some months where it was hard to pick a best and I had some months where it was hard to pick a worst, and so we're dealing with a wide variety of books here today. We're nearing the end of 2025 and I've read so far 67 books this year, and so this is a small smattering of everything I experienced. I had some really high highs and some really low lows, starting of course in January. We'll start with my favorite. We'll start with a positive note. My favorite book in January was my very first book of the month book, and that was The Favorites by Lane Fargo. This is a book all about ice skaters and their career. Our main characters are like bloodthirsty ice skating Olympians, and you're reading through like news interviews, and it's obviously leading up to some scandalous event. So throughout the book, pieces are slowly revealed, characters' true intentions are revealed. I was very pleasantly surprised by it, and it was akin to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo to me, and like this salacious gossip feeling type of read. And so this is my favorite book of January. My least favorite book for January I do not have here, and it was The Coworker by Frida McFadden. This book was so bizarre. On paper it sounds really good. It's about these two women who work in an office, and one of them is very quirky and kind of odd and nobody really likes her. Our main character specifically is quite mean to her, and one day she just stops showing up to work. And so our main character is trying to slowly piece the pieces together of where she went, what happened to her. The story is very intertwined between the two characters. There's a lot of overlap there, and so I'll leave it at that. Don't want to spoil anything. My issue with this book was the portrayal of, I think her name's Dawn, who is clearly neurodivergent. The author does not state that, but like it's very textbook, specifically autism. It's very obviously meant to be that, and all the other characters are mean to her, belittle her, humiliate her. Like, it didn't really seem like a critique on those characters. I don't know. It gave me the ick. But the story was interesting. It was fine. The twist was good, but like nothing to write home about. Certainly not a great thriller at all. Moving on to February. My best book of February was actually my first read of my first book club, and that book is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I mean, are you joking? I think Book Lovers is so slept on. I don't feel like people ever mention it as their favorite Emily Henry book, and it quite possibly could be mine. I feel like it's always at the bottom of people's rankings, and I don't know why, because these characters are so good. This story is so good. I just loved it. This is about Nora and Charlie, who are both in the book publishing, book editing world, and they're both very much good at their jobs, unemotional sharks. She agrees to go to this small town with her sister for a girls' trip to get away and relax. And what do you know, when she gets there, Charlie, her work rival, is there in the town. We end up getting some forced proximity. It's lovely. The banter is everything. Charlie and Nora are some of my favorite characters of the year. And of course, Emily Henry's banter is unlike anything. My worst book for February is The Silent Patient. I did not enjoy this book at all, and I know I'm in the minority with that opinion. The Silent Patient is about just that, a patient who was found guilty of committing a murder of her husband, and ever since the crime, she's gone silent. She is mute. She will not talk to anyone about anything, and this psychiatrist is trying to get her to speak about it all these years later. This was very clearly written by a man. Every single portrayal of women in that book is atrocious and a stereotype of wide variety. I hated it. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand being in a miserable man's head all the time. Don't recommend. I don't understand why this book gets so much hype. I felt like the plot was oddly paced. There were like periods where things were moving really quickly and things were dragging out really long. Things were made like way overly complicated, like described overly complicated when they were really pretty simplistic. As time has gone on, I've grown to hate it even more, which is unfortunate because I think I rated this, I rated this 3 stars, and looking back on it, I don't even think it deserves that because of the hatred I feel for this book still. And it has 4.17 stars, which is crazy. Now we're into March, and March was actually a month I had a lot of good reads, which is wonderful. We always love that. Reigning supreme on top as my best book in March was Sunrise on the Reaping. I absolutely adored. I think I did a reading vlog of this if you're interested in watching that. And entering the Hunger Games universe again was everything. Suzanne Collins is such an amazing writer, specifically such an amazing YA writer. Just so good. If somehow you have not heard, Sunrise on the Reaping is about Haymitch's games. Haymitch was a character in the first original trilogy. He was a mentor as someone who has won the games previously. So you go into this book, I'm assuming you would know that lore. You go into this book knowing who's gonna win. And I feel like a lot of people were like, well, why would you read it if you know the outcome? But there is so much that happens in the journey of this book. I think this does such a good job at expanding on how much of a villain Snow truly is. I was like in shock of how the atrocities committed in this book. I loved the braveness of Haymitch and the people in the games with him. I was floored at so many surprise characters I would not have expected to be in this book. So many name drops. It was so fun. Really a case study on how twisted and calculated the government can be, but it also had a light plot of people working together against the system. This ends very sadly. It's not a hero's winning story, kind of the theme of the Hunger Games. You win but at what cost, and this does such a good job at expanding on that idea. I don't know, it's overall a very, very sad book, but a very, very good one. I had a hard time picking my bottom book because the majority of March I was rereading the Powerless series, and I literally refused to put any of those in the bottom of the totem pole. If we go purely based on stars, I actually have kind of two, and that's because one is kind of a cop-out, so I'll give you another one anyway. My truly bottom of March, it's kind of a cop-out, is a book I read aloud at work, and that's Judy Moody. Of course it's going to be rated not that high, it's a children's novel, but it was cute, it was fine, it was 3 stars. I don't even really remember what happens. It's like basically Judy Moody doing a school project, and that's all you need to know about that. That was my 3-star bottom read of the month. Kind of a cop-out, I know, but I had so many highly rated books in March that it was hard to pick another bottom. But if we did, it would be The Martian, which is actually rated 4 stars. Like, please don't think I rated this book low, because I did not. I loved The Martian. The Martian is about a man who goes up into space on this mission on Mars. It's supposed to be a short, a few day trip, but they end up having to abandon the mission, and his crew can't find him, and so they leave Mars without him, and everyone thinks he's dead. But of course, the plot of the book has to continue, and he is alive and left on Mars, and so the book chronicles him surviving on Mars through his journals and video logs. It's so interesting. If you're a space girly, you'll love it. Though I did pleasantly but also unpleasantly find the plot to be very extremely similar to the plot of the movie. It's one of those cases where if you've seen the movie, you feel like reading the book is kind of slow because you kind of know everything's gonna happen in an exact order it's gonna happen, so it's not very shocking, but it was still really good. And the ending actually was different, which I thought was interesting. Not a huge difference, but something I thought was interesting enough to note. But yeah, still a 4-star book, still very good, and I planned on reading Andy Weir in the future. For April, my top was Fearless by Lauren Roberts. Fearless is the 3rd book in the Powerless trilogy. I can't say really anything without giving spoilers. I let a friend borrow the copy of the book, so I don't have it here, but just know I love that book. I did a reading vlog of it as well. I was on spring break when I was able to read this book, and so it was so nice being able to read for hours on end and let myself feel the full range of emotions. I had the time to like stop and really sit in a moment and think about all the implications and the feelings and experience all of that, whereas if I was like reading under a crunch time, like I'm trying to get this book done as fast as possible, I would have just kept flipping the pages to find out what happened. But because I had the time, I really sat in it, and that was fun. That was a really fun experience. I loved that book. I love the Powerless series. My bottom book of March was The Search by Nora Roberts. I almost said Lauren Roberts. Nora Roberts. This book is about a woman who runs a search and rescue training organization. She trains dogs to help find people for a living, which that is so fun. And it's also a romance. And the plot of that sounds incredible. You're probably wondering, why is it the bottom book of this month? And that's because it's written so poorly. This felt like 2 ideas for a book. Like, one of them is this romance dog trainer vibe, then there's also this thriller aspect going on where she's like a survivor of an almost murder, and she has all this trauma, and it seems like someone's after her again, and it feels like 2 completely different stories that were like forced together and don't really work at all. Not to mention the fact that the male main character is miserable, and I hate miserable men. And I hate men who are like complacent in their relationships and are like with women because it benefits them, not because they truly adore that woman. I literally think he tells her to her face at one point she's not that pretty. I hated it. For a book to be that good on paper and ruin it that bad is so irritating to me. Now we're in May, and May is when I had a lot going on in my personal life and I was reading terrible books, unfortunately. The top book is actually going to be not even a very good one, and that is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I was eating this book up until the third act breakup. The toxicity and ego that exuded this man and like manipulation, oh my god, where did it come from? I enjoyed both of the characters so much, but this just turned into a mess. Basically in The Honeymooners, these two are, she is the sister of the bride, he is a best friend of the groom, or a best friend or a family friend or something, but they hate each other. They don't get along. And at the wedding, everyone gets food poisoning and the two of them don't, because one of them like doesn't eat seafood and the other's afraid of buffets or something, so they don't eat anything, and so they're the only ones who don't get this like really rare illness that lasts for weeks. And so her sister's like, you guys should go on our honeymoon so it doesn't get wasted, just pretend to be us and you guys can go on a free vacation. So they agree and they go, and it kind of is like a really fast-paced romance novel because obviously you're under a time constraint of it only being a week. And I did not mind that. I was ready for that, I was prepared for that, and they had such good chemistry on the honeymoon. So fun. Then they go back and there's this like plot line that their female main character has an issue with, and the male main character like gaslights her into being not true and only continues to do that to an extreme degree when they get back from the honeymoon, and it was so gross. I hated it. And she gets isolated from everyone and he continues to feel that way, and eventually he comes to his senses and it all works out. But I couldn't believe how gross he became to me and how she accepted it. And that was the best book I read that month, and I think I rated it 3 or 3.5 stars. My worst book of that month, I actually had a hard time deciding because there was actually two I wanted to pick, so I'll give you a little glimpse of each. So my actual pick for my worst book of May was Fangirl Down, and Fangirl Down is about this girl who is a fangirl of this golf player. She like follows him around to these golf events, she holds posters in the background. Very odd premise for a book. Then our male main character is a golf star, but he's kind of fallen off the wagon. He is over drinking, he's lost his touch, yada yada yada, and she's like the only one that's still supporting him. Somehow they bump into each other and he needs a golf caddy and she needs money. And so he's like, you can be my golf caddy, you'll make some money, and they end up falling in love, obviously. That's a really weird power dynamic there in the beginning to start with. Celebrity and fan, boss and employee, just ew, not loving that. The book was also extremely cringe because you're following the perspective of a fangirl. She does many things I think the average person would not do, but it also made the book very humorous because you're like, what the f is going on? Why are you doing that? But the biggest mistake this book made was making yet another miserable male main character. He's rude, he's hateful, he's like one of those guys that's only nice to her. I hate that archetype. He has no reason to live other than her, and I think that is so codependent and unhealthy. You have to have your own reason to live, and she also was like fixing him. He's not even doing the work himself. She's fixing him and he's like only getting back together because of her. Like, he's not doing it for himself. A mess, a disaster, gross train wreck. My honorable mention is one I rated lower at the time, but looking back I feel like my experience is more positive than in Fangirl Down, but then also I didn't feel that way at the time, so who knows. I rated Fangirl Down 3 stars because it made me laugh at the very least. There's worse crimes a book could commit. And so I rated it 3 stars even if the male main character was miserable, because I did enjoy the female main character because she was so silly. I rated The Summer I Turned Pretty 2.5 stars because I feel like nothing actually happened in that book. After watching the first season of the television show and reading that book, you're like, wow, they really expanded upon the source material because basically nothing happens. You're in Belly's stream of consciousness the whole book, and she's like 14, 15 years old. So she's very immature, making bad decisions. It was a frustrating book to read. There's like no plot, which sometimes I'm okay with, but it did not work for me in this book at all. But one thing I adore about Belly and The Summer I Turned Pretty in general is Belly's romanticization of locations. I feel like it's such an underrated thing, and it's something that I personally feel in my life, when these places that you've been to and had experiences in hold something sacred within you. And when she is talking about the summer house and the experiences she's had there, it is like kind of like the intro to Summer I Turned Pretty, like glimmering, sparkling water, just gorgeous. I relate to her on that level. Not many other levels, but that one I did. And so I look back fondly upon that because that's not something you see often in books. So Fangirl Down, The Summer I Turned Pretty, both not very good. All right, half of the year. We are on June. We're on kind of the up and up, I think. In June, I read one of my favorite books of the year, which was The X-Files by Jessica Joyce. I have it here. I put this book on my TBR because I think his name's Drama King Books on Instagram loves Jessica Joyce and loves The X-Files, and so I added this book to my TBR, and I think I picked it because the prompt was a book with food on the cover and it has grapes. Who knew it was going to end up being one of the most impactful books of my year? I did not. This book is about Georgia and Eli. This is a second chance romance, which I normally do not like, but this book did it so well. They got together very young and they were very in love, but they had a breakup, and they call it a cataclysmic breakup on the back. And so now they're both going to their best friend's wedding, and so they're trapped together, and the wedding ends up being a disaster, and so they have to help replan it. And so these two are stuck together doing that, and they're often thought to be the bride and groom, which is a whole other layer of fun. But this book was just so good. I relate to Georgia's character on such a deep level. Her desire to grow up, move on, do great things, but her dread at what that means for her other relationships, like her friendships and relationships with people in her life, is so deeply relatable to me. Like, I am always wanting to move on to the next stage of life and try new things, but I'm also so utterly nostalgic and happy with where I am. Like, it's such a dichotomy. It is portrayed so beautifully in this book. Not only that, but them falling back in love with each other is so gorgeous. It's so genuine. I don't know how to describe it, but like, these characters did the work to earn a second chance romance. And not only do they do the work, but like, they think so much about like, if we were to get back together, what would that mean for our lives and how would that look? And I just thought it was like such a mature and adult portrayal of romance. I loved it. Such a realistic portrayal of romance, such a responsible portrayal of romance. I loved it, and this had one of my all-time favorite tropes of letter writing. That is, I will leave it at that. But when that started, I bawled for the last 50 pages of this book. Just crying, 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 crying. So good. My least favorite book of June was Iron Flame, and that's because I don't remember a single thing that happened. It was so unremarkable to me. Again, I can't really give you a synopsis because it's a sequel, so I don't want to spoil the plot of the first one. I enjoyed Fourth Wing. It was fun, not earth-shattering for me personally, but I knew I wanted to continue the series. Iron Flame was such a drag. It was the longest book I read this year, and it felt like it. And even though it was the longest book I read, I felt like nothing actually happened until the last 100 pages. Yeah, it wasn't terrible. I think I still rated it 3.5 stars. It was fine. I liked the friendship vibes, but like the last 100 pages where like we're actually getting to the action was the best. And then of course it ends on another cliffhanger. Of course. July. I read Atmosphere in July, and I don't know my exact ranking of the books I read this year yet, but this is going to be near the top. I think about this book almost every single day. I loved it. Atmosphere is about Joan, who is part of this astronaut crew. She's one of the first female astronauts, or want to be astronauts, and this book follows her and her crew, her group of friends, well, that turn into her friends, and all their attempts and missions and obstacles to getting to space. It's told in this dual timeline, which I don't often love, but I did love it in this book. It was so good, and you follow her character development over time and her relationship development over time, romantically, in friendships, in family. It was just so good. Again, sobbing for the last 50 pages. So good. Space girlies, get on this. My worst book of July was This Is How You Lose the Time War. I don't understand what people say in this book at all. I don't understand how the reviews are so high at all. I don't even know how to describe this book to you, and people who like this book even don't know how to describe it themselves. Like, they don't know how to explain what goes on in this book because it doesn't make any sense. Essentially, you're following these two figures that are like red and blue in this like dystopian futuristic world where they're like fighting a war. They're on opposite sides, but they're communicating through weird magical letter writing. It is so bizarre, and there's essentially no plot because just like boom, you're in a different scene, different timeline. It is atrociously confusing, overcomplicated on purpose. It's like trying to be smart and it's not. I hated this book. You're confused for such a significant portion of the book. It's like, why? You could have explained, you could have given us backstory and context, but you didn't. For August, my top book was The God of the Woods, and I really enjoyed this thriller. I feel like you either love or hate this one. I loved it. I thought it was great. There are quite a few characters, but listening to this on audio really helped me sort them out and understand them all. Basically, The God of the Woods is about a camp of rich people who years and years ago a little boy went missing. All these years later, a girl goes missing from the same family at the same camp, and so it's all about finding out who did it. And there's like this prison runaway, and there's suspicious family members and suspicious employees of the camp, and so you're putting all of that together throughout the book, and there's a lot of like interesting side plot. I just was engaged the entire time I was reading this book. Thought it was really fun. My worst book of this month was Love in the Time of Cholera. This is like my mom's, one of her all-time favorite books, and I hated it. I just don't think books that are written by men or are historical are right for me. I don't like the portrayal of women. Don't like the portrayal of romance. I don't like the cultural norms of the time. There's so much gross stuff that happens in this book. Love in the Time of Cholera is all about these two people who basically had young love. They were with each other for a short time when they were very young, and then she ends up not staying with him because she wants to do bigger and greater things in life, and he is actually psychologically obsessed with her. It is bizarre. He was before their relationship, he was during their relationship, and he was after the relationship. So he's obsessed with her for his entire life. It's like damaging to his psyche, he cannot move past it. And so you follow both of them going through life, and eventually they get back together, of course. And the male main character in this book just is so disgusting to me. I just don't even know how to describe it. There's so many atrocities that happen in this book. I'm not going to read you my verbatim review, but a summary. It's a story about a man's obsession and ability to take no. The male main character is the worst male main character I've ever read. I don't think the author was critical of the characters, the way he wrote them, especially Florentino, our male main character. It felt like that was behavior that was accepted, and that was disgusting. If it was like, here's why she didn't want to be with him at first, because here are all his bad actions, and here's the growth he did. But like, no growth was happening. This was obviously accepted and okay. Neither of the characters really develop. It was very bizarre. I did not enjoy it at all. I do think the writing was good. Very hard for me to understand for quite a majority of the book. I'm just not that linguistically talented. It did feel like you're reading gossip, which is fun. I do like that. But so much of it was horrible. So there's that. Summary at the bottom was, if this is love, keep me safe from it, because ew. September was another great month, and in this month my favorite book was The Love Hypothesis, and I did not see this being such a good book. It blew me away because I thought it was gonna be cringed out, but like I needed to read it because of the hype around it, and I'm so glad I read it. Had not in so long read a romance where I was like squealing, giggling, kicking my feet as I was in this one. Like, I was literally having the best time. The Love Hypothesis is about Olive and Adam, who are in academia, or she's a PhD student and he is a professor. I'm not really clear on like how academia even really works, but it's pretty cutthroat in this book, which was fun. She's trying to let her best friend move on and get with her ex-boyfriend, and she wants to convince her friend that she's over him, so she bumps into him at the library or something, and she kisses him to convince her friend that she's moved on. She's like, see, I'm with this new guy. Of course they're not together yet. And so then he's like, why did you kiss me? And she's like, I'm sorry, I need my friend to move on. And then he's like, well, then we should probably fake date to like convince her fully. I love fake dating. I love it so much. Then they fake date, and of course then you fall into the is he really faking right now, or is she really faking right now? And I love it so much. Then you're following them throughout the book, exploring their fake dating relationship, pushing it to its bounds. They of course have an expiration date for when this has to end. It's just so interesting. I think the plot, like the side plot of like her being a PhD candidate, was so interesting. I loved the characters. I love the character development. It's just so good. I loved all of it. I would reread this in a heartbeat. I had such a great time. The banter was amazing. I can't wait for the movie. My least favorite book for this month was actually a pretty good book, was The Night and the Moth. I rated this 4 stars, so it's by no means a bad book or a book I disliked, but it was just my least favorite of this month because I had that many good reads. This is a complex book to try to explain. I honestly took a good chunk to really understand what's going on. There's these things called diviners, and they can like see the future, and Sybil, our main character, is one of them. You essentially like drown to death seeing people's futures, but it's their job and that's what they do, and they're trapped there for a certain number of years, and she is like trying to be perfect and do it to the best she can. She's a people pleaser. In the beginning of the book, there's this knight that comes to the picture, and he's very like dismissive of the whole thing, judgy of the whole thing, and she takes it as a criticism against her. Then the other diviners start going missing, scandal breaks out, and she lives with the knight to try and figure out where they went because like her boss person is like not taking it seriously. Then they're like on the road with her magical gargoyle and the king, and they're trying to find all these magical objects, and they have to fight these people for them, these magical people. It is so hard to describe, and I'm not a fantasy reader, so I don't feel like I'm doing it justice at all. Overall, I thought it was fun. Took me a while to get into it. Once I did, I really enjoyed it. I really liked the like kind of like trials aspect of it. I was so fascinated to learn where she came from and like what's going on here. It left on a cliffhanger, and I will be picking up the next one. October, I had a high and a low for this month. My high, I guess it's not that high of a high because I still only rated it 4 stars, but it was so fun. And that was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. She's just becoming a favorite of mine. Bride is a like modern vampire werewolf book that like humans, vampires, and werewolves all coexist. The politics is so interesting. I don't even know how to describe it all, but essentially they're having an arranged marriage. Misery and Lo. Misery is our vampire, Lo is our werewolf. They're having an arranged marriage to try and make a cordial relationship between vampires and werewolves. They don't get along. They don't see eye to eye, and she thinks she's just gonna be like trapped in a room for the rest of her life, but she's like, okay, but at least it's good for the good of the vampires. Then she finds out werewolves are actually really nice people, and Lo is really nice, and they get to know each other. They spend a lot of time together, and there's a bunch of behind the scenes stuff going on with like the politics of it all. So interesting. I would love a book exploring more of that, and maybe Mate does that. I need to pick that up, but I enjoyed that book so much more than I thought I was going to. I had never read, what is it called, like a Megaverse before? My least favorite book in October was unfortunately Fearful by Lauren Roberts. I can't say much without ruining the plot of the entire series. This is happening at the same time as the plot of Fearless is happening, and you're following one of the main characters from that book, and then a new character, which is essentially Death. I feel like the concept of Death and being a Grim Reaper is very interesting. There's some plot holes there that we don't have to get into right now, but this just did not work for me. The character we know and have been in the mind of in the Powerless trilogy, you're getting more of them in this book. It doesn't even feel like a familiar character. The relationship that develops in this book is bizarre. The side plot is interesting, but I feel like it could have been a part of the main story and been fine. Like, this was just not needed. It was very sad, depressing, unhealthy, like so bizarre. There were a few lore questions answered, and so I did enjoy it for that, but otherwise, I'm so sad about that. November. I thought I would have read more, but I really didn't. I think I only read 3 books, so 2 of them are gonna be here. My favorite was a highlight of the year though, and that was If It Makes You Happy by Julie Olivia. More books should be like this. This is like akin to Emily Henry and how real it feels. The seasonal vibes were everything I could have wanted and more. It was gorgeous. Characters were so well developed and real feeling. It felt like a rom-com. Following Michelle, she inherits this B&B and she's trying to keep it together, and it's just not really working. She's kind of cold, and then she enlists the help of her neighbor, Cliff, who is very friendly and does know all the neighbors, and they're trying to help each other out so she can succeed, and he's just being a nice guy, and it just works so well. Their chemistry and their banter is awesome. He's a single dad. That's such an interesting aspect in this book. And it actually is set in the 90s, and there's some fun. I wasn't even alive in the 90s, and I still feel like I caught a lot of the references. It was fun, like not reading about like cell phones and stuff like that. I love a small town romance. It was just so fun, and I feel like the development in this book was so slow and genuine. It's over the course of like 3 or 4 months. There's a playlist in the beginning, of course. If it makes you happy. Yeah, yes, read this next fall. My least favorite book of November was by no means bad. It was just kind of a disappointment, and that was A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. It was just okay. It had so many things going for it. Like, I've heard the author is great. The main character was fun. I love the idea of another B&B. This one was like kind of like a magical realism element going on. There was a very inclusive cast of characters, a new magic system, but it was just fell short for me. None of the characters really pulled me in that deep. The romance didn't really get me. I just felt like I was like waiting for it to be over, which is so mean. I hate saying that, but it was like fine. It was good, but it wasn't great. It was a 3-star for me. You're essentially following B&B owner, and she's lost her magic from this event that happened in her past, and she's trying to get it back. This guy who like works for like the magical government or like magical academia, not really sure, comes to help her out, and it's following that story and her magical B&B and her raccoon sidekick and his daughter and all the characters in the B&B. If it sounds good to you, I would recommend it. I think I had too high of expectations going into a cozy fantasy. Like, I feel like cozy fantasies like don't typically have that much going on. I just wanted more from it, and that's okay. And now we're in December, and I feel like in December I've really tried to like lock in again because I'm trying to meet my reading goal. I'm on book 67 right now, and I need to get to 70 to meet my goal for the year. I can't in good faith pick a favorite and least favorite because I'm not done with my TBR, but I'll share with you what I have read and like some quick thoughts. Started this month with Lessons in Chemistry, which is technically the highest rated book I've read this month, so technically I guess so far that would be my favorite. So good, worth all of the hype it gets and more. Elizabeth Zott is one of my favorite characters from the year. I have been very much in a mindset of critiquing traditional relationships and marital roles, and this book really explores that, and smart women, and I love that. Then I read Onyx Storm, which was also 4 stars. It was actually my favorite in the series so far, which I was very pleasantly surprised by. I love trials in a fantasy book. Then I read Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. Fun, 4 stars. This is about a girl who's in an accident. Someone tries to murder her, and she only has a week to live, and she's trying to solve her own murder in that week. And I actually put it together pretty early, and I was proud of myself for that. I felt pretty smart. Then most recently I finished Love Light Farms, which I thought I was prepared for it to be kind of like A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, like not blow me away. But this was so fun. It's small town, it's best friends, it's fake dating, all the best things. So good. Yeah, I literally don't know what my least favorite of the month would be yet so far. Those were all my favorite and least favorite books of each month of the year. Let me know if you vehemently disagree with me on any of those. I find it so interesting when you like love a book and I hated it, or I loved a book and you hated it, vice versa, whatever. It's fun to discuss. Just be nice. This was a pretty good year for reading, and I'm excited for 2026 because I have so many good books on my TBR. I just can't wait to read them all. I wish I could just quit my job and read. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you want to see more of me, subscribe or follow my Instagram. I have a bookstagram now. So fun. Follow me over there. I will see you next time.